Dementors are amongst the foulest creatures to walk this earth. They feed on every good feeling, every happy memory, until a person is left with absolutely nothing but his worst experiences.
The history of Dementors in relation to wizarding society is tied up with one location, Azkaban. Built on an island in the North Sea, Azkaban was meant to remain hidden from wizard and muggle alike, as intended by its creator, Ekrizdis, a wizard that practiced the worst kind of dark magic, luring muggle sailors to their deaths. After his death, the concealment charms placed on the island faded, and the mystery became aware of this mysterious fortress. Those who entered the deserted fortress to investigate discovered an infestation of Dementors, so much so that the ministry were scared with what would happen should anyone try to evict them, so the ministry decided to let the sizable colony remain, unmolested and unchecked. But when Damocles Raoul was elected Minister for Magic in 1718, he insisted on utilizing Azkaban as a prison and the Dementors as guards. This plan was eventually approved, and despite protests, Azkaban remained the prison of the wizarding world right up until the Second Wizarding War. From that point on, the Dementors served the ministry as the guards of Azkaban, as the arrangement allowed them to feed on the emotions of the prisoners within its walls. Somewhere between 1733 and 1747, Minister Eldridge Diggory visited Azkaban and was horrified by what the Dementors were doing to the prisoners. He formed a committee to find alternative solutions, the least of which was to remove the Dementors permanently. He was met with opposition from those who feared a mainland invasion by the dark creatures if they were deprived of their food source. Alas, Diggory died of dragonpox while in office, and thus the campaign to find an alternative to Azkaban's Dementors stalled. Though their primary function was to guard Azkaban, Dementors also perform other services for the ministry, such as being sent to guard other locations, escort prisoners to trial, or even hunt down certain criminals. Although many in the wizarding world felt they could sleep easy at night with the knowledge that Dementors were guarding Azkaban, some believed the Dementors to be inherently fickle and untrustworthy, fearing a potential change in allegiances should a dark wizard arise who might offer them more promising compensation than the ministry, particularly one Albus Dumbledore, who thought it was a mistake for the ministry to ever ally with such creatures, though Alistair Moody thought violent crimes such as Death Eaters deserved such treatment. During the 1993-1994 school year, Dementors were sent to guard Hogwarts against mass murderer Sirius Black, who had recently escaped from Azkaban in 1993. On the Hogwarts Express, Harry Potter had his first encounter with a Dementor, which forced him to relive his worst memory, hearing the last moments of his parents' lives before they were murdered by Lord Voldemort. Luckily, he was protected by the new defense against the Dark Arts professor, Remus Lupin. While the Dementors were at Hogwarts, Dumbledore refused to let them enter the school grounds, but was unable to prevent their presence entirely, and so warned his students to give the Dementors no reason to harm them.
Now, whilst I've been assured that their presence will not disrupt our day-to-day activities, a word of caution. Dementors are vicious creatures. They will not distinguish between the one they hunt and the one who gets in their way. Therefore, I must warn each and every one of you to give them no reason to harm you.
So dangerous did Dumbledore consider them to be that even when Sirius Black was found to have entered the school, he refused to let them search or enter the castle.
Oh, he's like the devil. He's got and a soul as dark as his name. It's him, Headmaster. The one they all talk about. He's here, somewhere in the castle. Sirius Black!
Secure the castle, Mr. Filch. The rest of you, to the Great Hall.
Harry endured a second encounter with the Dementors during a Quidditch game, causing him to faint and suffer a fall from his broom. He was then rescued by Dumbledore, who slowed Harry's fall and then drove the Dementors away with a Patronus. They had a particularly bad effect on Harry due to his plentiful of bad memories. Professor Lupin later claimed that because of the excitement there was at the Quidditch game, it was like a feast to the Dementors, which they were unable to resist. Harry asked Lupin for assistance so he could be able to protect himself from Dementors, which is why Lupin began teaching Harry the Patronus charm using a Boggart, which transformed into a Dementor in front of Harry. And during the next Quidditch match Harry competed in, 4 Slytherins disguised themselves as Dementors to distract Harry. Although not yet capable of producing a fully formed Patronus, Harry was able to perform the spell well enough to thwart their attempts and won the match, after which Professor McGonagall sentenced the offending students to detention and deduced 50 points from House Slytherin. Harry's next encounter with the Dementors came when he, Hermione, and Sirius were surrounded in the Forbidden Forest. All seemed lost until the intervention of a powerful and fully formed Patronus saved them all. Because the Dementors tried to kiss Harry during the encounter in the forest, it was enough to convince the Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge, to have the Dementors removed from Hogwarts at the end of the school year. In the Triwizard Tournament, Harry encountered what he thought at the time a real Dementor, so he cast a Patronus charm, which caused the Dementor to stumble, letting Harry know that it was a Boggart, and subsequently crying out, "Ridiculous!" Harry's next encounter with the Dementors was in an alley near his home on Private Drive, when he and his cousin, Dudley Dursley, were ambushed by 2 Dementors, sent illegally by Dolores Umbridge. He successfully used the Patronus charm and was subsequently guided home by a squib named Arabella Fig. Harry was then put on trial for his use of underage magic, but ultimately was not punished as it was recognized as having been self-defense. Nearly a year later, Umbridge admitted that her plan was to attack and undermine Harry using the Dementors. By June 1996, all of the Dementors of Azkaban collectively rebelled against their employers to join Lord Voldemort, who offered them more victims and free reign across the country. This aided the 1996 and 1997 escape of Death Eaters from Azkaban. By mid-1996, the Dementors who had joined Voldemort were multiplying in such quantities as to generate an unseasonal July mist noticeable to both the Muggle and Wizarding worlds alike. Cornelius Fudge also admitted they were factors in the British Prime Minister's recent decline in terms of public approval, as they were making people less happy in general. During the 1997 infiltration of the Ministry of Magic, while Harry Potter was disguised as Albert Runcorn, he encountered the Dementors in the Muggle-born Registration Commission courtroom, where they were used to take away convicted Muggle-borns after interrogation and to terrorize them during interrogation. Dolores Umbridge protected herself and the other questioners with a cat Patronus, which dissipated when Harry stunned her. Harry and Hermione then performed the charm to save the Muggle-borns, who had yet to be interrogated from the Dementors. After apparating to Hogsmeade, Harry, Ron and Hermione set off a caterwauling charm and were forced to hide under Harry's invisibility cloak. Unable to find them, the Death Eaters dispatched Dementors to attack the trio, as Dementors sensed the presence of others and did not rely on sight. That's why Harry was then forced to cast his Patronus to protect the trio from being kissed. Harry drove away the Dementors, but almost gave the trio away, as his Patronus was very distinctive. Aberforth Dumbledore saved them and passed off Harry's stag as his own goat Patronus and ushered the trio into his pub. Later, during the Battle of Hogwarts, the Dementors fought on the side of Lord Voldemort and the Death Eaters. Harry, Hermione and Ron were attacked by a large number of Dementors, and due to the horrific events they had experienced and witnessed, including the recent death of Fred Weasley, they all had difficulty summoning their Patronuses, but they were saved when Seamus Finnegan, Luna Lovegood and Ernie Macmillan attacked the Dementors with their own Patronuses, holding them at bay, buying Harry enough time to be able to summon his Patronus, which caused the Dementors to scatter. Later, Harry encountered more Dementors in the Forbidden Forest, but the presence of James, Lily, Sirius and Remus, summoned through the Resurrection Stone, shielded him from them. After the Second Wizarding War, Kingsley Shacklebolt was put in charge of the Ministry of Magic and swiftly went about dismantling the Dementors as guards of the Wizard Prison, as they were swiftly replaced by the Aurors. It is still a mystery to this day regarding where they went or what they did without their only known application. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching along with me and seeing the journey that the Dementors have taken. I hope you enjoyed the video, and in the comments below, tell me which entity from the Harry Potter universe you would want to see next. Until next time, peace!